Hello, welcome back to my channel, and today we are here to do part 2 of my minor favourites. So this is a video response in part to Toadstool Tarot, who initially brought out hashtag major favourites, and then Atypical Tarot, who had done the hashtag court card favourites, and also to Crystal Spirit, who had extended the court card favourites to include all of the minor arcana. And I will link all of their videos below and my responses for the first parts, and also crucially part 1 of my minor favorites, which showed the wand suit and the cup suit. For this video I am looking at the swords suit, and without further ado, my choice for the Ace of Swords is from the Tarot of the Divine by Yoshi Yoshitani. So aesthetically, I think there were maybe other images of the Ace of Swords that I would like at least as well, or more than this. But what I really like here is the way the creator has taken a story and really blended it into the meaning of the Ace of Swords. So what's depicted here is the story of the Gordian knot and Alexander the Great cutting through the knot. So the idea being that this was a knot that nobody was able to untie, and that the person who was able to, to unravel the knot would be the person to rule over that city, that territory, and that Alexander tried to untie the knot and wasn't able to, so just cut it with his sword and unraveled it that way. And the symbolism of the Ace of Swords, of like a new idea or a new way of looking at things or a new concept, that I think that just captures that in that story really effectively. For the Two of Swords, I've gone for the Two of Air from the Gaian Tarot. And what I really like here is that we have the woman has got her eyes closed and she's listening, but she can hear these two birds, and there's a sense of tuning into yourself and tuning into nature, and looking for guidance in that way, which I think is just a nice way of capturing some of that energy that we get in the Two of Swords. For the Three of Swords, I went for the Dreamkeeper's Tarot. There's something about here, the character is holding the heart in their hands, and this sense that they could potentially remove or have put in those swords themselves. There's something with the Three of Swords that to me isn't about necessarily something happening to you that breaks your heart, but more a kind of mental suffering and maybe thought patterns or things like that sometimes you do to yourself. And I felt like the position of the heart here in the person's hands captured that ambiguity a little bit, so it could be, hurt feelings in that sense. But with this being the swords, it's more about your thoughts than it is about your feelings per se. So I like this in terms of the idea of that they could have put the swords in themselves. For the Four of Swords, again, there were lots of lovely depictions, but this is one that I always come back to, the Four of Swords from the Triple Goddess Tarot. And I always sort of call this my do yoga card, because this person, well, they're not doing yoga, well, they're maybe kind of doing yoga, meditating, but their stillness and this kind of the setting where they are and so on, it looks very peaceful and restful. And potentially, with the swords, they could be a warrior who is taking a break, from fighting or from training. And I really like the image, and when I've pulled that in tarot spreads, it almost always means that I should be doing some yoga. For the Five of Swords, I've come to the Five of Bells from the Numinous Tarot. And as is always the case with this deck, Cedar has put a really interesting contemporary spin on the meaning of the card, which once learned really has kind of become part of how I understand the card. And what I see very much in this card is like it's the dominant voice that drowns out the other voices. So here the person on the top step, you know, their status and their dominance is illustrated physically, but also they have these 3 bells that are all pealing at the same time, making a loud noise. And then here, the people who are lower down, they have their own bells. They're trying to raise their own, even raising their hands, kind of, you know, to get attention, to be like, you know, can I make my point now? Maybe almost in supplication, but their sound is not being heard. Their sound is being drowned out by the loud pealing noise of this dominant person. So if we think about, you know, in the 5 of Swords, the image of, you know, in the Rider-Waite-Smith of the person who's dominated, who has won, and potentially not, you know, by kind of unfair means and so on, and maybe feeling ambiguous about it. Like, I feel like this 5 of Bells really forces us to think about, you know, how we use our voices. Do we dominate others? Do we drown out other people's opinions? Do we let minority voices be heard? You know, where do we identify in this image? You know, are we the person who tries to speak but isn't heard, or are we the person who is dominating and drowning out? I mean, it's a very political image as well, I think, and there's just so much to take from it. And the write-up about this in the book is excellent. So yes, this was my first choice, and kind of easy choice for the 5 of Swords. For the 6 of Swords, the images are all very consistent, I find, through the decks that I have. Again, most of my decks are very Rider-Waite-Smith based, so that'll be why. And one thing I like here is, you know, we have the rough waters and then moving into the smooth water, you know, the sense of moving away. And the genders of the characters aren't really very clear. You know, this could be a woman with a baby, but it's not entirely clear. So I think it's easier to read different people and different scenarios into these individuals, and this sort of sense of moving away and moving from rough waters into easier times, clearer waters. And this is the Anna K Tarot, which funnily is a deck that I've had for a while, but I haven't really used very much yet. I've only had it for a couple of months, and I ended up picking quite a few cards for this task, so I really need to start reading with it. Now, you'll notice there's a blank space. There's no 7 of Swords. Once I had gathered all my cards together, all my choices from all my different decks, I hadn't picked anything for the 7 of Swords. And in the end, I didn't go and pick a place filler. I didn't go back through. It is a funny card. I mean, it's maybe something I need to journal about and have a look at, because it's like there are darker cards in the tarot that I had lots of choices for, and yet somehow the 7 of Swords I completely overlooked. So maybe something to look at there. For the 8 of Swords, I've chosen the Anna K Tarot again, and I think this is a card that prompts a lot of people to buy this deck. It certainly was a factor for me. This sense of the 8 of Swords being about, you know, you're trapped, but it's part, you know, it's kind of your own mind, trapped in your own negative thought processes, that you could escape if you tried to. And that's made very explicit here, in that the woman's reflection and her reality don't correspond. And it's like her veil kind of trails into the mirror, and she's all tangled up in it. So it's just a great image. For the 9 of Swords, I went for the 9 of Bells, and this is again from the Numinous Tarot. And this is an image I find very powerful. There's this sense of all the thoughts and the pain that they cause, and the wind chime kind of continually chiming in the wind, that's just swirling around and around this character, you know, and that constant ringing and pealing noise, like the metaphor of the bells for the swords, I think just is really, really effective, in the sense of how continuous and overwhelming sound can be. And then we have this vortex image in the background, which also kind of visually symbolizes this sense of falling down into repetitive thought patterns and nightmares and worries and anxieties. And the image, when reversed, I feel is intensified. you know, this sense that they could just fall down into this mess of noise and chaos in their thoughts. And yeah, it's just really great. And I mean, I've said it before in this series, but the Numinous Tarot, the Minor Arcana are just so powerful. It's really, and the book is great. For the Ten of Swords, I have gone quite dark here in choosing the Ten of Swords from the Slow Tarot, so by Lacey Bryant. I mean, it really is like a horror movie image, this one. And I did go back and forth between this one and some of the more healing focused Ten of Swords, like in the Anna K Tarot, where we see the person is walking away and the swords and the blood on the snow, but they're walking away, like, you know, starting again. But I feel like that's the step beyond the Ten of Swords, you know, that's like Ten of Swords 10.5, do you know what I mean? Or like almost getting into the Ace again, to start again. And so I decided to just pick a card that really wallows in the depths that is the Ten of Swords. Like, you've hit the rock bottom, like this is as bad as it can get. And this is pretty much as bad as it can get. I mean, it is quite literally like a murder picture from a horror movie. And yeah, it's quite shocking. And I know a lot of people don't like this card in that deck because it is so full on. But when I was looking at all my Ten of Swords choices, like, it just stood out for me. So I'll see if I can line up all the swords then to get you the overall 1 to 10. So we have the Tarot of the Divine, the Gaian Tarot, the Dreamkeeper's Tarot, the Triple Goddess Tarot, the Numinous Tarot, the Anna K Tarot, Numinous Tarot again, and the Slow Tarot. And finally we come to the Pentacles, and the first choice for the Ace of Pentacles, the Ace of Earth from the Gaian Tarot. And I know I've said, if you've seen some of my other videos, that I don't really like animal decks. The Gaian Tarot includes some animal cards because the deck is concerned with the environment and the world as, you know, as a whole, not just the people. But for some reason, the animal-based cards in that deck I really do like. So we have such a sense of potential for growth here, and it's so earthy. You know, the ferns that are about to unfurl and grow, the little, you know, baby deer, the little fawn that's, you know, just such potential for growth. So that's a lovely depiction of the Ace of Earth. For the second card, the Two of Pentacles, I've gone for the Two of Earth, also from the Gaian Tarot. And this is just, I just love this card so much. Like, this guy is standing with his two kids in the grocery section or at the market, and, you know, I can just feel like, you know, he's physically juggling, holding the twins, and then, you know, just I can feel like the decision paralysis of, like, we're trying to decide what to buy or what to make for dinner. Just is so, it's just one more thing to try to juggle, try to keep right when you're, you know, trying to deal with all the challenges of parenthood as well. And, you know, so this card really speaks to me. And even before, I've had this deck for a while, you know, for a few years. Even before I had my child, I really loved this image. I love the two children's different facial expressions. You know, was just not impressed by life. This one's having a little cry, and yeah, it's just, and I think I like I suppose the parent could be anyone, but the broad back always makes me feel like this is the dad, you know, holding the kids and trying to get the groceries. And I just really love this image and the story that it tells. And then for the Three of Pentacles, I'm still with the Gaian Tarot, and this was not deliberate. I chose each of the cards separately from a little pile for each. Like, I had went through every deck, chose the minor cards that I liked, and then kind of grouped them by card and chose which one for each card. So I didn't realize I had chosen the 1, 2, and 3 of Pentacles from the same deck until sort of later on when I was bringing it all together. But the 3 of Pentacles, the sense of collaboration and creativity. Like, there are a few versions of this that I like, and most of them tend to be artistic, you know, the sculpting or painting or something like that. But here we have like this sense of herbcraft, you know, the women working together, like they're making little dropper bottles of something, you know, with the different herbs that maybe they have harvested themselves. And I just love the energy, the smiling faces, the sense of collaboration and community. So there's that creativity, but again, with the Gaian Tarot and with the Earth suit here, you know, there's that sense of Pentacles and Earth being related to health and body is really well communicated here, with the sense of the creativity being to make maybe tinctures or medicinal tonics and so on, from the herbs and from the products of the earth. So it just brings out a lot in terms of the resonances of the earth suit that maybe we don't always get in the 3 of Pentacles that I really like. So that's the Gaian Tarot for 1, 2, and 3. Then for the 4 of Pentacles, I've gone for the 4 of Tomes, which is from the Numinous Tarot again. And the Numinous Tarot has tomes instead of pentacles for that suit. And here I think, you know, this image communicates the 4 really clearly. You know, you have these treasures, these like grimoires or magical books that are held in this locked cabinet, and you're keeping them safe. You are the custodian of these books, but then by locking them away, nobody gets to use them. You don't even profit from having them, and nobody else can benefit from them either. So there's that sense, you know, it expands, I think, on that idea of the miser in the 4 of Pentacles to make us think more broadly about how we are as like husbandry of our resources, you know, how we take care of the resources we have and how we use what we have to benefit our communities and ourselves. Or, you know, not to say no one should ever save anything, but, you know, it makes you question what's the value of this kind of saving of valuable things. And for the 5, I have also gone back to the Numinous Tarot, and it just, again, the story is told so eloquently here in this image. So we have the 5 of Tomes. This person is, you know, out in the cold, and they have decided to burn their books to get some heat. But what they don't realize is that the library is behind them and is open, and the lights are on in the library. So if they had have looked around to see what other help was available, they didn't have to burn their books. They could have kept the books and gone to the library and warmed up indoors there. So that sense of poverty and destitution and struggle that we get with the 5 of Pentacles, but also that lighted window showing that there is help and assistance that you could go for if you looked around for it, that is also really clearly communicated here. The 6 of Pentacles I struggled with, I have to say. There's such a strange, you know, there's a weird dynamic in that card, where they're very often one person depicted as being, you know, there's kind of a condescension in that card that bothers me somehow, of the rich person, you know, dropping a few coins into the outstretched hands of the beggar. You know, it was hard for me to find one of those kinds of images that I actually liked. And so where I ended up going for this one from the Spirit Keeper's Tarot by Annabelle Wen, I think it was this is a much more symbolic image. It's much vaguer. So we have one hand kind of dropping orbs down to the other hand. So there is the sense of one giving and one receiving, but one doesn't look necessarily, you know, in terms of status or hierarchy. There's no real sense of who's who here. And then with the scales in the middle, it gives a sense of balance and, you know, the sharing of resources maybe more fairly, and that this card is called the Giver, maybe puts the focus on, you know, thinking about in a similar sort of, maybe an extension of the idea from here of like what kind of resources you have, and how you use your resources is balanced against the needs of your community and so on. And for the 7, again, there was like a few options that I liked for the 7 of Pentacles, but I ended up going for this one from the Shimmering Veil, which is one of the cards in the deck that I really like. The 7 of Pentacles to me is not a card of work, it's a card of waiting, like you've done your work. And some of the, you know, the cards very often show somebody next to things that they've planted, like waiting for the plant to grow or waiting for the harvest to be ready. But I like here, you know, where we've got the sun coming up and the person's just relaxing and waiting. And the colours are lovely, and the different kind of movement of colour that we have in the image, I just really like. For the 8 of Pentacles, I went for the Modern Witch Tarot. And, you know, again, the 8 of Pentacles, kind of fairly consistent imagery a lot across all the decks I have, because they're very Rider-Waite-Smith based. And I just like this one because it is quite modern in the sense of the person is working, you know, they're not like chiseling a pentacle in a foundry, you know, they're working on their computer, and they're possibly, you know, this is a home office, and, you know, these days so many people are working from home. I just really like the modern interpretation of the 8 of Pentacles. 9 of Pentacles, there were loads that I really liked, and I ended up going for this one from the Spirit Keepers Tarot. I think because it just had sort of such a classic kind of fairy tale vibe, you know, if we have a woman in a garden, you know, surrounded by abundance, and there's so many lovely depictions of that, and lovely modern depictions. But this one, you know, she really does seem like a princess in a castle, you know, with this very beautiful dress, and yeah, it kind of looks like a castle in the background. I just really, you know, quite liked it. I mean, but I think it was kind of almost even between a few depictions, and I might have mentioned this earlier, but I think it was in the part 1 video. If you are interested in seeing what some of my shortlists were for some of these cards, like the 9 of Pentacles, I have shared images of some of those shortlist groups on my Instagram, which is at Hazeljane Tarot, all one word, if you want to follow me on Instagram. And then my final card in this epic journey through the Minor Arcana, a 10 of Pentacles. This is a little bit of maybe an outside the box choice. This is from the Story Medicine Tarot. And the Pentacles in the Story Medicine Tarot are depicted like little fetuses, little babies developing. And there's a lot that I really find very confronting and enjoyable about the Story Medicine Tarot. And I do like the way women's bodies are depicted in a realistic way. As a person with a larger body, I enjoy the way she kind of joyously depicts women with larger bodies in this deck. But the thing that I think really struck me about this 10 of Pentacles is, if we think about the 10 of Pentacles about legacy and about multi-generational family and about that kind of connection through the generations. What struck me at first, I thought like this is a woman and her offspring, but then I realized that it is more, could be interpreted as her ancestors, because her umbilical cord would have connected to her own mother, not to her child, if you follow my logic. So this cord connects her to her mother, but also this is like a family tree, you know, all the ancestors going back through the generations. And it's just such an unusual way of visualizing that it kind of forced me to put aside all the other lovely images of, you know, multiple generations together that we have in lots of other decks, and just sort of go for this one. Plus, I kind of wanted to put something from the Story Medicine Tarot in. I had a few in my short list, but this was the only one that kind of got through to the top 10 in the end. So that is the Story Medicine Tarot by Jessica Zinchuk, which is an independently produced deck, and I think you can get it from Game Crafter. And in the UK, it's in stock on what's it called? Oh, in Little Red Tarot, which is where I got it. So we have the whole 1 to 10 of the Pentacles. Sorry, I've got them all mixed up on myself here. So we have the Gaian Tarot, the Numinous Tarot, the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, the Shimmering Veil, the Modern Witch Tarot, and the Story Medicine Tarot. So if you have hung in there with me for the whole top 40 of the Minor Arcana, thank you so much for watching. And if you do your own minor favorites, or if you've done any of the major favorites or the court card favorites, let me know in the comments below, because I really enjoy watching videos like this. And if any of these are your favorites, please let me know. Or if any of these are like really not your favorites, that would also be an interesting conversation to have. As you can see, you know, there are some decks that really are just favorite decks for me, the Gaian Tarot, the Numinous Tarot, and if you have been tempted to go and check out some of these decks because of my videos, that is I'm sorry to be enabling you to go deck buying, but there are just so many fabulous decks out there. And this tag has been a really fun way to just, you know, it's very hard to get a chance to read with all of your decks all the time, and this tag has been a really fun way to just get out all my tarot decks and look at all the beautiful art and think about the card meanings and think about, you know, why I love tarot and what I love about these decks. And you know, so I really recommend it as an activity if you've got some time. It has definitely passed a pleasant few evenings this week for me as I've been making my choices. So thanks very much for watching, and if you haven't already, please like the video, please subscribe to my channel, and yeah, I'll see you back here again soon. Thanks for watching.